Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. In today's occasion, I would like to share to you the results of our study. So the title of our study, as you can see on the screen, is Explanation Genre in the Mostly Viewed TED Talks, Contribution of the Generic Structure to the Appeal of the Talks. Now, to give you a big picture of what I'm going to share to you in this presentation, here is the outline. So first of all, I'm going to share the reasons why we conducted the study in points of departure, which is followed by the research question and then also the basic concepts underlying the study. And I'm going also to talk in brief about the methodology, which includes data collection and data analysis. And of course, I'm going to elaborate the findings, the results of our study to you all. All right. Now, the first part. So among many important reasons why we conducted the study is that we often witness, nowadays, perhaps in the last 5 or 10 years, that there are, a lot of influential speakers sharing their ideas in many platforms online. And one of them is in TED.com. Now, if you visit this website, you can find that there are many talks that have been viewed by a lot of people, millions of viewers across the globe. Now, we believe that the talks can potentially, change people's minds and also influence them to take some actions. So we thought that it will be an interesting thing to do if we analyze the way the speakers, organize the talks to influence a lot of people. That's why then we came up at that time with a research question. So what is the generic structure of the explanation text in the top 5 TED Talks? So we focus more on explanation text because we conducted preliminary observation before we really conducted our study, and then we could identify at that time that 3 out of 5 top TED Talks with the most views were actually constructed in the form of explanation text. Okay, so the basic concepts underlying the study. So we need at least to understand 2 important terms here. The first one is genre, and the second one, more specific, it is actually explanation genre. Now, when we talk about genre, we need to understand that it is actually quite a big concept. So genre is basically an activity involving the use of language. Okay, so the key phrase is the use of language. So telling a story uses language, so it is actually a genre. It is an activity involving the use of language. And then gossiping, okay? You talk about someone with your friends, you use language, so it is actually a genre too. And then shopping is a genre because you need to use language, okay, to buy something. And then telling a joke is also a genre. And many other examples that can be categorized as genre. Now, the important thing from understanding genre is that we have to keep in mind that genre is produced with a purpose in mind, okay? We have a goal to achieve. And in a more technical term, we call it social function, which is to be attained by organizing ideas into stages, which is called then generic structure, and manipulating the choices of lexical items and grammatical constructions, or we call it lexical grammar. So simply put, a genre is actually an activity that we do using language, which has a certain purpose or a social function. Now, to achieve this purpose, we need to stage, we need to structure our ideas, and we also need then to choose certain lexical items supported by certain grammatical constructions. So the big idea behind the term genre is that when we combine generic structure and lexicogrammar, we can then achieve the social function. Okay, now to be more specific about explanation genre, we need to know that an explanation genre is actually used to explain how a process takes place. Now, since the focus is more on the generic structure, so the basic generic structure of an explanation text is phenomenon, which is followed by an explanation. Now, the phenomenon is the thing that we are going to explain further, while the explanation is the explanation. It is a series of events, of a series of things that further explain the phenomenon. Okay, in terms of the methodology of our study, so our study is qualitative descriptive in nature, which is framed by genre theory in this case. Now, in collecting the data, we actually went to TED.com. We collected the scripts of the top 5 TED Talks with most views at that time in the beginning of 2020, around February at that time. And then we further focus on the 3 explanation texts produced by 3 speakers. Now, in terms of data analysis, simply speaking, we analyze the scripts, the transcripts of the talks by focusing more on the stages in the genre. So we break down the scripts into units of meanings, and then from that we identify, the blocks to come up with important patterns. Now, here are the findings. So in the beginning, as I told you earlier, that there are 3 explanation texts in the top 5 TED Talks that we analyzed. And then we found that the core structure of explanation text, which is the phenomenon followed by explanation, is employed in all the talks. Now, the interesting one is that this core structure, which is phenomenon followed by explanation, is found to be supported by 4 other extra stages. So the 4 other extra stages are the things that we found in our study here. So let's see. Now this is actually the pattern that we can conclude from analyzing those 3 explanation texts. The generic structure is something like this. You can see that the white ones, okay, there are 2 elements which are printed, which are typed white here, SP, which stands for stating phenomenon, and PE, which stands for providing explanation. So they are actually the core elements. We can see that these 2 core elements are accompanied by 4 other extra elements, namely PB, which means providing background. So the speaker in this case gives some important information in the beginning to give you some understanding, basic understanding of the topic. And then EP, establishing point. It is a kind of stating the big idea of their talk. And then after the providing explanation, we can find here EE, which stands for evaluating explanation. So the speaker, in this case, evaluate, talk about the good things and the bad things from something, let's say, for example, and then also followed by providing recommendation, PR. In this case, the speaker give you some important points from the phenomenon which has been explained. Now you can also see some important symbols here, something like this, which means to be followed by, and the one in the parentheses is optional, while this one occurring together as a unit, like these 2 important elements, and this one is for recursive. sign. All right. So from this big pattern, we can identify that there are 3 stages or elements that always occur. In this case, the first one is PB. PB is not actually the core element of an explanation text. By in our analysis, PB always occurs, okay, in all the talks. So PB providing background, this stage always occurs as a start, while the other 2 are actually stating phenomenon and also providing explanation. Now, this is the interesting part, that we can identify 3 optional stages. The first one is EP, establishing point. The position is EP is actually after providing background. So the speaker, some of the speakers, yeah, perhaps 1 or 2, give establishing point. And then after the explanation, there is evaluating explanation and also providing recommendation. Now, so from this pattern, we can then conclude from the 3 explanation tags or the 3 talks that the speakers presented to us, we can identify 3 big blocks. The first one is the phenomenon block, which consists of providing background and an optional part, which is the EP, which stands for the establishing point, and then together with the stating the phenomenon. While the second block is explanation block, the main component is the explanation, providing the explanation, and then the EE, evaluating the explanation, which together combine into the explanation block. And the last one is the recommendation. So we identified 3 important blocks from our study here. Now, there are several important points that we can then conclude from our study. First of all, that the core structure of the explanation genre, in this case phenomenon followed by explanation, is employed in all of the talks. Now, the second one, there are additional stages that we can identify employed in a text. So the providing background or PB and the establishing point or EP are present prior to mentioning of the phenomenon. And then evaluating explanation and providing recommendation are present after the explanation. We also think that based on our analysis, the use of the core stages together with the the additional stages that we found appears to contribute to the appeal of the text. While the core stages help to make the message clear, the additional stages make the talk more appealing. Now, the generic structure is not the only aspect, we believe, that contributes to the appeal of the text. So there are the lexicogrammatical features, which unfortunately are not covered in the study. So one of our recommendations is that since we focus more on the generic structure, further research can also focus on the lexicogrammar of the talks, which will be quite a huge thing to do. So that's all we can share in relation to the results of our study. Thank you very much for your attention. See you again in different occasion. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.